Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, hi, good evening.
Good,
Can you hear me? Am I audible?
yeah, Dr. Shetty, I'd like to welcome you first. Then you can take over. Dr. Shetty, am I audible? Dr. Shetty, am I audible?
Yeah, Dr. Lahori, we can hear you, but Dr. Shetty,
Hi, can you
can
hear
you
me?
hear us?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Just
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm going to formally welcome you. So good evening, everyone. We welcome everybody to this webinar series organized by Kenya Association of Pediatric Dentists and Federation of Special Care Dentistry. And today we'll have
Yeah.
a topic
Can you
on
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Just introducing
Yeah.
you.
Uh, Let me introduce myself. I think Dr. Manish has already introduced me to
No,
the.
I'm introducing you. Can you give me a moment?
Pardon?
Can you give me a moment? I'm introducing you.
I think
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah,
Shetty
please.
cannot hear us.
Yeah,
Let me
please go
please.
ahead. Please go ahead. Okay.
So we have a renowned oral and maxillofacial surgeon today with us who will give his overview on cleft care. I will like to call him, he's a magician in true sense. Dr. Vikram Shetty is a duly qualified facial-maxillofacial surgeon and is currently the director of Nitte Meenakshi Institute of Craniofacial Surgery and head of the Department of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery at A.B. Shetty Dental College. He is attached to the K.S. Hegde Medical College and A.B. Shetty Dental College, affiliated to the Nitte University. He has acquired his formal medical and dental training along with specialization in facial-maxillofacial surgery. He has undergone extensive neurosurgical training and is now one of the few surgeons in the country operating on complex craniofacial deformities. As head of one of the busiest craniofacial institutes in South India, Dr. Vikram Shetty personally performs 900 to 1000 complex facial surgeries every year. As part of the medical sciences section, he is also the director of the Craniofacial Surgery Fellowship Program of the Medical College and is in charge of training postgraduate students in facial-maxillary surgery. His department has a partnership with Cleft Children International and the Smile Train that help bring back the smiles to countless children afflicted with the scourge of cleft lip and palate. Dr. Shetty has perfected the principles and techniques of contouring of the face to enhance beauty and youth without the need for repeated surgical procedures. He hopes to bring these surgical techniques within the reach of common people. As head of the Cleft Center, he oversees the nasoalveolar molding process and protocols for around 40 primary cleft cases every month, and his publications in international journals on NAM have been recognized as the gold standard for the NAM technique. Dr. Shetty is the director of clinical Golden Proportions, a state of art center offering high and cosmetic surgery options to celebrities and the elite in various cities in India. And it's an honor for us to have Dr. Shetty with us. Dr. Shetty, you're all good to go ahead and welcome you again.
Thank you, Dr. Manish. It was an excellent introduction. Uh, a little too much, I would say, but let me begin. My topic today is going to be the first part of a series on cleft care. And today I'm going to talk to you about how we manage cleft care as an overview. I'm sure you can all see my screen. And I'm not going to go into a great detail about what a cleft is and how it develops, because I'm sure you all have your general perception about what it is. But let me give you my perception on what a cleft is. Now, obviously, it's a failure of fusion along the normal lines of fusion that would normally occur in an embryo. And to put it beautifully, I have two pictures in front of me. One is a cleft child with a bilateral cleft lip and palate, and one is the embryo on how it develops. And looking at these two photos side by side, you can exactly see how this embryo actually determines and shows you how a cleft forms. And you can see here in this embryonic photograph the median nasal process, the two lateral nasal processes, and the maxillary process which haven't fused. And if they do not fuse along the same line, you have a cleft. It can be unilateral, it can be bilateral. It can go from all the way anterior to the posterior part of the palate, and this is exactly how a cleft forms. Now, to briefly get you in on the etiology of a cleft, it's usually multifactorial, with the genetic and the environmental factors being the most important factors in the cleft. You will never have a cleft which is caused only by genetic factors. At the same time, you won't have a cleft which is formed only by the environmental factors. It has to be a combination of the two. And in the genetic factors, you have the family history, where you could have one or more people who in the same family who have clefts, or in the case of consanguineous marriages or marriages within relatives. It's common in in a few castes and religions in India, and I'm sure it would be there too, where there are marriages within first cousins, and this can cause an enhanced genetic predisposition for clefts. Among the environmental factors, obviously, is the nutritional, the folic acid deficiency being the most common factor that affects clefts, followed by vitamin and iron deficiency anemia. And then you have various other problems like tobacco consumption, alcohol consumption, radiation, infections, and high maternal age. In India, as in most countries, 1 in 650 to 700 live births have craniofacial defects, usually clefts. And with the large population that India has, we have almost 35,000 cleft children being born every year. 80% of these are in the low socioeconomic age group, which means they are poor patients, with 80% of them being on the left side. So we have most of our clefts being on the left side. And if we see a cleft on the right side, we are quite sure that there could be a chance for some other associated anomaly, usually a cardiac problem or some other neurological problems. Now, these patients have other associated problems like psychological problems, problems in suckling, problems in swallowing. Intelligence is never a problem in these patients. They're highly intelligent patients. Obviously, genetics plays a factor in the intelligence, but they're quite intelligent and there is no problem with their brain and the functioning of their brain in association cleft patients. Now, we have a protocol which we follow in our center, which we have been trying to uh, educate people on this protocol. Now, it depends on the age at which the cleft is presented in our department. If a cleft child is presents to our department at birth, we start something what we call as nasoalveolar molding. We start it at the time of first presentation and it goes on till the age of 6 months of age. We do our primary lip repair at 6 months. We used to do it at 2 months and 3 months, but the muscles at that age, the facial muscles are extremely thin and fine and do not develop well, which is why we need to wait until the patient is at least 6 months to get a perfect result. Like the African population, the Asian population, especially South Indian population where I treat my patients, have a type of skin which is very similar to each other and a tendency for keloid also. But using the right techniques of surgery, we are able to avoid getting any form of bad scarring, even at an advanced age of 6 months. And hence, I do not believe in the theory that the earlier we treat the cleft, the better is the result. We get excellent cleft results even at 6 months of age. And therefore, I would promote, even in your place, that you do your clefts at 6 months of age, the lip at least. The palate, again, we do at 18 months, that's 1 year, 6 months. We used to do it at 9 and 10 months, but 18 months we have found is the ideal time where we get, it's a sweet spot, where we get ideal growth, ideal speech, and we avoid getting a mid-facial growth disturbance or a palatal constriction. Alveolar bone grafting is done at 8 to 12 years of age. And if these patients do require an osteotomy, we do it after 15 years of age. Speech therapy is done at every visit right from 6 months of age. We do have patients who come to us after 1.5 years of age. If a patient comes to us after 1.5 years of age, our primary concern is palate and speech, and we do the palate first, followed by the cheiloplasty after 3 to 4 months of age, after 3 to 4 months after doing the palate. Bone grafting again is done at 8 to 12 years of age. We also give our patient allied counseling. We give them counseling for their psychological problems. More the parents also need a lot of psychological counseling because they're taking care of a cleft child. We give them dietary advice. We check their echo to check for cardiac anomalies. If needed, they might need some cardiac interventions. These patients are given speech therapy at every uh, uh, visit that they come to our hospital. Periodontics forms a very essential part of our treatment. Dental treatment is a very important part required in these children. The periodontist takes care of these children up to 18 years of age, followed by the other dental specialties, ensuring that we create a beautiful child who can be assimilated into society in a wonderful way. Let me briefly tell you about our nasoalveolar molding. We started nasoalveolar molding aggressively in 2007. We've been diligently doing this procedure on all our cleft children from the time of first presentation unto the lip surgery. We have systematically reviewed 600 patients, and we are doing a very stage-wise publication. And you can see this is a list of our publications which we have published in international craniofacial and cleft journals, and we've got a fair amount of peer review uh, done, and they have all agreed that our cleft results are much better with nasoalveolar molding. Because we have some patients who present a little late for nasoalveolar molding, that is around 4 to 5 months of age for the first time when they visit us, we now have started doing late onset nasoalveolar molding, and we get good results with even late onset nasoalveolar molding. We decided we have nothing to lose. We get good scars when we do the lip even in older patients. And we also have a lot of patients who come to us with very severe nutritional anomalies for whom we need to do nutritional enhancement. So it gives us time to do nasoalveolar molding. And you see this child here, extremely malnourished child who presented to us at 6 months of age. So at 6 months of age, this child had a birth weight, had a weight which was what a normal birth weight should be. And it took us almost 2 months to get this child to a normal physical stature, after which we did the lip and got a good result with the lip. There's another child with an extremely malnourished child at 6 months of age who was weighing just around 2.4 kilograms, and it took us almost 3.5 months to get this child to a normal weight for the age, for the particular age. And in this time, we did nasoalveolar molding and ensure that we get an excellent lip result in this child too. I'll just show you how our NAM appliances look. This is a typical NAM appliance which we use from the moment the child is born. There is a nasal stent which keeps the nose outwards. There's an alveolar component which we correct every 3 weeks to ensure that the alveolus growth is perfect. And in patients for whom we do late onset nasoalveolar molding, we have cutout spaces where the teeth would be allowed to grow, and hence we are able to continue nasoalveolar molding up to 1 year of age. And this ensures that the growth of the palate is perfect. No child should have the stigma of a cleft. When we do nasoalveolar molding, we achieve good lip length, good lip fullness, because the lesser segment of the maxilla is brought forward. We get a good advancement in the lesser segment of the maxilla, and this also allows us to ensure that there is no asymmetry in the lip. The nasal stent allows for molding of the nasal cartilage, which allows good nasal projection and symmetry once we are done with the lip. We technically started off doing a Millard repair, and now we do a very modified Millard repair. Kind of doesn't resemble the original Millard, but it's a process. It's been a process of trial and error, and today we have very good results with our lip. I'll roughly show you. I know you all are not surgeons, and I won't go into the details of how the lip looks, but we ensure we do an excellent muscle dissection. The muscle dissection is carried out till the infraorbital rims, which is a fairly advanced muscle dissection. This allows for good muscle closure and ensures that the lip length is quite good, along with a good nasal architecture. We do not do extensive nasal dissection when we do our lips because we don't want to hamper growth. And let me take you through a few patient cases where we have done very detailed and elaborate nasoalveolar molding. We have recalled the patients every 3 weeks. That means from the time the patient first presents to us till the lip surgery is done at 6 months, there is at least a minimum of 8 visits that most of these patients come for. We ensure that the lesser segment grows forward, and you can see the red line in all the future photographs that I'm going to show you. It will show you that the alveolar cleft defect subsequently reduces until 6 months of age. The lesser segment comes forward, and we're able to close the cleft gap just by doing nasoalveolar molding. And you can also see the end result in the lip, where these lips have been done at 6 months of age. You will notice that the scarring is very minimal and the asymmetry is also very minimal. We are able to get an excellent nose and a lip form. You can see this other patient where we noticed in the middle of the visit the lesser segment was not growing enough. So we initiated increased growth in the lesser segment, causing a good lip nose structure. There's another patient where you can see in position B, the lesser segment was not catching up with the greater segment, and we used a lot of force to ensure that the lesser segment grows forward and the gap closes to give an excellent lip nose architecture. And this is a very time consuming process. It requires a lot of man hours, where at every visit we make an impression of the maxilla. We ensure that the plate is modified to suit that particular maxilla at that particular time. We stimulate growth in the maxillary segments by allowing pressure in the palatal region, reducing the plate in the buccal region, ensuring that a good facial architecture is formed. And you can see how the growth occurs in these patients. You can see the lesser segment, which was not well developed in the initial stages, has developed well. The cleft gap has closed completely, allowing for a good facial architecture. You can see these are patients who are slightly dark skinned. And even in dark skinned patients, we're able to do a good lip closure with minimal scarring, even though we do it at 6 months of age. It's a fallacy to think that the earlier you do the lip repair, the better is the scar. We do scar revisions of cases done at other places, even in older patients, and we get excellent results even in these patients. You can see how the cleft defect is almost obliterated. It requires a lot of changes that are done in the plate. Through the course of the growth of this patient, we may need to make 2 new plates after the first plate is done to ensure that the results are good. Now, there are a lot of people who may say that, is it really worth it? At the end of 6 years or at the end of 10 years, the growth in a patient who has had nasoalveolar molding would be the same as a patient who's not had nasoalveolar molding. There are some people who claim that nasoalveolar molding reduces the midface growth and may cause midface deficiency. So to prove a point that our lip surgery is good, our nasoalveolar molding is effective, I have reviewed patients over 6 to 10 years to show you that the growth is good. And you can see this patient immediately after the lip surgery, the symmetry in the nasoalveolar segment is good. Just before the lip surgery, you can see that the nose is looking less collapsed. And the same patient at 8 years of age has a perfect nose and a perfect lip without midface deficiency. There's another patient with an extremely wide uh, alveolus, and you can see how the alveolus is quite wide at the time of first presentation. You can see how the cleft side of the nostril is completely collapsed, and you can see this child after the lip surgery. The nose looks fairly symmetrical, and the same child at 9 years of age, you can see the arch, it's well expanded. The nose is, I wouldn't say it's absolutely symmetrical, but you can see the nasal projection. There is no collapse. If I were to go back and show you this nose, and if I show you this nose, it's a fairly good nose. You can see this child, the cleft alveolus is extremely wide. It's an extremely wide defect, which we have managed to close almost completely. And you can see how this child has an absolutely collapsed nostril. And after the lip nose surgery is done, there is a very good symmetry in the nostril along with the lip. You can also see the alveolus. There is very minimal collapse in the alveolus, and it's easily correctable at a later stage. For this child, we have done a bonded quad helix to expand that arch, and you can see how the lip has gained symmetry, how the nose is symmetrical, and there is absolutely no midface deficiency in this patient. There's another patient in whom we have almost closed the cleft defect, and you can see this child, the collapsed nose before we started nasoalveolar molding, the nostril and the nasal cartilages which have molded outward, and the same child at 9 or 10 years of age where we have no midface deficiency, excellent symmetry in the nose, and a good nose. Mind you, in none of these patients have we done nasal dissection when we have done the lip surgery. It is a pure lip surgery without any form of dissection into the nose, which means we are sure that we will not get a midface deficiency in these patients. You can see this extremely wide cleft defect. You can see the nose, how collapsed it is. And you can see how in the immediate post-operative phase, the nose is fairly good. And in the late post-operative phase, when the child is 7 years of age, you can see the nose, it's a fairly good nose. Another patient with an extremely wide cleft defect and a collapsed nostril. You can see how the nose has developed and how the midface has grown. You can see how the nostril is not as collapsed as it was. No midface deficiency in this patient. Another patient in whom we've closed the alveolar cleft defect, and the same patient, when we follow up at a later age, the midface has grown well. The arch has grown fairly well. We have not yet done orthodontics for this patient, hence the rotated central incisor. We do bone grafting only after 8 to 12 years of age, which is why this patient still has a cleft alveolus leading to the defect. There's another patient here where we've done facial reanimation, facial closure. We've elevated the nose just using nasoalveolar molding, and you can see this patient on whom we've done nasoalveolar molding. There is no collapsed nose. The arch form is well wide, is extremely good without having to do any form of arch expansion. a pair of twins for whom we have done this surgery. And you can see we have completely closed the cleft defect in these patients. We have done a slight mid-face advancement for this child to give a good facial form. His twin brother, for whom we've also done a facial advancement to give good facial advancement. Let me tell you that nasoalveolar molding, though extremely difficult to do, has a karmic effect. We Indians believe in something called karma, where something that you do comes back to help you later in life. Or if you do something bad, it comes back to bite you later in life. Now, we believe that when we do nasoalveolar molding, we get a very good lip and nose form, which then translates into a good lip without having to touch the periosteum. We do not do an extensive periosteal dissection when we do the lip, because the lip presents to us in a beautiful form for which we do not have to do extremely elaborate periosteal dissection. We also get a good nose without touching the nose, and we get good arch width, because of which we do not need to aggressively expand the arch. And all this allows us good maxillary growth, which then means that when the patient is 12 or 13 or 14 years of age, we rarely have to do a mid-face advancement. We are left with children who have an excellent form in the face, and we ensure that these patients have excellent cosmesis through their school life, ensuring that they are not ostracized during their school life. Thank you so much. I'll now be open for questions.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Vikram. It was a wonderful overview on cleft care. And as I said, you are a magician, so you have shown wonderful cases. We'd like to have more of you in the next webinar series. So the session is open for questions. So please go ahead.
So Dr. Shetty, the first question that has been asked is, why are clefts more common on the left side?
An interesting question. There is no reason why it's not been proven as to why the clefts are more common on the left side, but it's got something to do with the stapedial artery. Now, the embryonic arterial morphology is different from the postnatal arterial morphology, and there is something known as the stapedial artery, which then converts the blood supply to the face from the stapedial artery to the facial artery. And during this conversion, there may be a slight amount of hematoma formed due to a rupture of the vessel causing the cleft, and this occurs more commonly on the left side. Now, when we see a patient with a left-sided cleft defect, we are actually very happy because we've seen an increased incidence of cardiac anomalies, renal anomalies, lung anomalies, and other craniofacial anomalies in cleft patients who have a right-sided cleft. Therefore, we notice that a cleft on the left side is a good sign. A cleft on the right side means you need to look further to check for other anomalies.
Are there any long-term studies that are conducted to show that 18 months is the ideal age for palatoplasty?
Yes, doctor. In fact, we are in the process of assessing patients for whom we have done palate surgery at 18 months, at 9 months, and at 24 months. So we started off in our center with the protocol of doing cleft palate at 9 months. We were doing cleft palate at palatoplasty at 9 months from the year 1999 to 2006. In 2006, we changed the cleft protocol to 18 months. So we ourselves have a long series of cases, and we've noted that cleft at 9 months doesn't improve speech, it hampers mid-face growth. And we have sent this paper for publication to Journal of Craniomaxillofacial Surgery. It's under review now. It's gone through two processes, two stages of review. It hopefully should come up for publication shortly. And if it does, we'll share that paper with you all during one of the future talks.
Okay. How is the excess force applied to lesser segment with nasal molding?
When we apply this force, what we use is we use a soft liner. It's a soft acrylic which has a rubbery consistency, and we apply that on the palatal part, hard palate, over the hard palate on the corresponding to the plate, ensuring that a gentle forward force is applied to the lesser segment. We also reduce the plate on the labial aspect to ensure that it allows space for the lesser segment to grow forward. We also trim the plate in the intermediate area, allowing the cleft alveolus to grow towards the opposite side. And this gentle application, it's not a very strong force. I think I misspoke when I said it's an aggressive force. When I say we do aggressive nasoalveolar molding, what I mean is we recall the patient every 3 weeks up to the age of 6 months. So it is not a monthly visit, it's a 3-weekly visit. And when I say aggressive nasoalveolar molding, it's aggressive in the terms that we recall the patient extremely often to ensure that we get good growth in the maxilla. The force per se is not very high.
We have a comment from Dr. Musera. She says, thank you for a great presentation. She further adds or asks, could you kindly please elaborate on the impression taking and nasal stent fabrication?
Okay. These children, I do not have a video to show you that right now, but I will explain it to you. It's extremely difficult to make impressions on children who are 3 days of age and 4 days of age. But we do it using silicone impression material. So we use the putty consistency of the silicone impression material to make impressions of the maxilla in these babies. The mother of the child and the doctor who is doing this sit face to face with their knees touching. The child is laid out over the thighs of the doctor and the mother of the child, with the head towards the doctor, and using a stock plate that we prepare for these patients, we make an impression of the maxilla, and on that impression we then pour a stone cast and prepare a plate. And then this plate is made using cold cure or self-curing acrylic, and a nasal stent is attached to this, as I showed you in the photograph. I'll just go back to the photograph. So this is how the cleft plate would look. We make a small hole to ensure that even if the plate does get dislodged, there is a hole through which the child can breathe through the mouth if there is a blockage. There is no need to tie a floss or some chain to ensure that the child doesn't swallow. It's too big for the child to swallow, and the nasal stent will not allow the plate to be swallowed. In this plate, in the palatal area, we add soft liner to ensure that the maxilla grows forward. And in the labial flange, we trim on the inner side and add acrylic on the outer side to ensure that the lesser segment grows forward. Impressions are made with using putty silicone material. The doctor shouldn't be wearing gloves while using putty, and an impression is made at every visit of the child every 3 weeks. Is there anything else I can clarify on?
I think that was quite clear. There's a comment here. Could you kindly shed light on the delay repair?
We used to do a delay repair earlier, and we've cleft lip repair. When you learn for the first time, it's always better to follow a classic Dallaire or a classic Millard. But over time, every cleft surgeon will find his or her modifications to ensure that it suits his patients or his or her patients, because the cleft in every region is different. Now, if you go to Europe and see the patients there, for some reason, the lips clefts are not as wide as we see in India. Especially in South India, the lips can get extremely wide, and bilateral lips can get even more wide. And therefore, we've had to modify the traditional Dallaire and Millard techniques to to be able to adjust for the type of clefts we see here, and that's why we today we get a good result in these lips. So it's been many years of trial and error, modifications, going through your old photographs to see what went wrong and trying to modify. And the crucial thing that you need to do is document photos and more photos in a very systematic fashion, so that you can go back and look at them.
And how frequently do you see patients during this nasoalveolar molding?
Okay, so the first visit is at the time the child first presents, which is usually soon after birth, at which time we make the plate. We call the patient after 10 days for the first visit after the plate is delivered, because usually a new plate would give rise to some form of ulcers or may hurt the child, or the pressure may be more on the nose, which is why our first visit after we first put the plate is 10 days after the plate is put. Subsequent to that, the patient is called every 3 weeks until the child is 6 months of age, at which time we do the lip surgery. After this, the child is called every month for a review when we start speech therapy for the patient. Another point I didn't mention was we also have a lactation specialist who gives education to the parent on how to feed the child. And this is done at every visit that the child comes to us for nasoalveolar molding. After the lip is done, the child comes every month for a follow-up, at which time speech therapy is started. This speech training is given to the mother, and the mother is told to train the child on tongue movements. And this is started at 6 to 8 months of age and is continued till palatoplasty is done at 1 year, 6 months of age. So it's a very regular visit which is carried out. We pay for every visit of the child. We pay the bus fare, we pay the train fare to ensure that they come to us, because these are all poor patients, and if you just tell them to come, they wouldn't come. You need to pay them for their travel. We also give them a little bit of allowance to compensate for whatever wage loss they may have experienced in bringing the child all the way. And this is the only way in which we can ensure proper treatment. Money forms a very important part in this, to ensure that the surgeon gets excellent treatment. And we ensure that every last penny is given to the patient to ensure that they come for regular treatment.
And would nasoalveolar molding work for children who present rather late? Like, for example, if a patient presented at 6 to 7 years?
No, we do not do nasoalveolar molding after 1 year, 1 month. The latest that we continue nasoalveolar molding is till 1 year, 1 month.
All right, I think
not beyond that.
That was quite informative. I think if there are any other questions, kindly share them on the Q&A section. But thank you very much for your comprehensive
Thank you, Doctor.
lecture. This has been very, very, very informative. It's good to appreciate the multidisciplinary approach that is required to treat all these patients.
Thank you.
And we're happy that we're going to have a series of lectures in the whole of November, tackling cleft lip and palate, the surgical point of view, the orthodontic point of view, pediatric dental point of view. And we thank you very much, Dr. Shetty. We'd like to acknowledge the Kenyan maxillofacial surgeons that graced our webinar. Dr. Vilembwa, Dr. Nyamu, Dr. Diambo, Dr. Dimba, pathologist, Dr. Mwange, and Dr. Midega, who's also a maxillofacial registrar, together with the pediatric dentist, the dentist, and the dentists from all over Africa. Thank you for joining our webinar. This has been a collaborative effort between KAPD and Federation Society of Special Care Dentistry. So once again, thank you, Dr. Shetty, for your time and your experience. We hope to have you join us once again.
Yes, I will.
Let me see, there's one more question. So the patient reports late, what procedure should be done to reduce the alveolar width?
Okay. Now, if the patient presents after 1 year, 1 month, we do not do any attempt to reduce the alveolar width. After 1 year, 1 month of age, we are more interested in ensuring that the palate is done at 1 year, 6 months. Hence, the lip has to be done 4 months before that. If we need to do the palate at 1 year, 6 months, then we have to do the lip before 1 year, 2 months of age. And at that point of time, our only goal is to ensure that we do the lip without doing the alveolus. So once you do the lip, that itself will help to make the alveolus come together. And if we have a feeling that the cleft is extremely wide, we do the palate at 1 year, 6 months, and then do the lip at around 2 years of age. And that itself will help a lot.
And if the alveolar molding is not done, would you address the nose simultaneously with the lip repair?
I never do the nose when I do the lip, because I want the nose to be absolutely pristine when I do a rhinoplasty at a later date. I don't want any form of fibrosis in the nose. If your lip technique is good, you will get a good nose even without doing a nasal dissection, which is why we have modified our technique to a large extent. And this technique which we follow today gives an excellent nose, even in patients who present late, who have not had nasal molding. I wouldn't say it's an excellent nose, but it's a very good nose. And we're able to ensure that when we do the nose at 13 or 14 years of age, we will have a beautiful, pristine nose to give, to be able to give an excellent nose at that point of time. We are extremely good in our rhinoplasties, and we are confident that even if the nose is bad, we will get a good nose when the patient is 14 or 15 years of age.
What is the procedure of repairing a cleft if a patient presents in their 30s, for instance, as an adult?
Can you repeat the question, sir?
What is the procedure for repairing a cleft if a patient presents later in their 30s, for instance, as an adult?
Always the palate first, followed by the lip. If the alveolus is extremely forward, we may do a mid-face surgery before we do the lip, and then we do the lip after we get good mid-face aesthetics.
Okay, so thank you once again. I think that was the last of the questions.
Thank you,
Thank you, Dr. Shetty. Thank you, Dr. Verma and Dr. Lahori, for helping us coordinate the lectures from India, and Dr. Kara from Kenya.
Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you, Dr. Vikram.
My pleasure, Dr. Priya. I thank you all for the opportunity you all have given. so that I can share my experience with you all. And I invite you all to India sometime in the future. Come over to our hospital. We can show you some of the work we do.
Yeah, that would be great. Do you have short courses available in India?
I
Would
personally
like
don't have any
to
short course, but there are a lot of good surgeons in India who offer short courses, and I could recommend you to some of them.
okay. Something that would be relevant maybe to the pediatric dentist, general dentist, and even the
Definitely.
maxillofacial surgeons.
In fact, Dr. Priya is in the process of setting up a few short courses, especially in clefts, nasal molding, hand surgery. And once she does that, we will have our course ready. So we are just waiting for Dr. Priya to take the initiative, and she being and the entire team being extremely dynamic. I'm sure they will come up with something that will help you all.
Okay. Something short and preferable and affordable as well.
Yes, yes.
Yes, Dr. Nick, we are in fact in process of developing few courses in all the respects of special care dentistry, and we will keep you in loop for this.
Oh yeah. Kindly share them. We'll share it with our
Absolutely.
counterparts, because I'm sure we have many people who are interested in adding, especially a hands-on course. Because I think nasal alveolar molding is something that we should be doing in our setup as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you again to all participants. Remember, all our previous recordings and webinars are available on our Facebook page and our website, which is www.kpd.or.ke. For the Kenyans, the CPD points should be fed to you on your portal by tomorrow, hopefully. And yes, and thank you very much. Remember, next week we will have another lecture on cleft lip and palate, and we hope to see you then, same time at 7 p.m., 9:30 p.m. Indian time. So have a very lovely evening, everyone. Good evening and be blessed.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.